The next concept is a national self-sufficiency for the essentials of life. So you want economic prosperity and growth, and we'll get to the growth at the end, but the economic prosperity, but it's got to include some very basic concepts that for a society to live without fear of collapse, we need self-sufficiency for the essentials of life. So water supply, food supply, housing, those basic elements. And we need to invest in the private sector to ensure that we have all of those pieces. And one of the words I constantly use when I was made head of counterterrorism, I worked across all the sectors that made up the economy of Alberta, and we defined that which was vital, necessary, significant, and then all the rest. Less than 5% made it into the vital, necessary, and significant. But those are the pieces I'm talking about, the vital pieces. So we need to ensure that we have a resiliency around water supply, food supply, and housing and shelter, whatever you want to call it. And energy is part of that, a heated place to live. We live in
Right.
a very um, um, uh, anti-human climate for
Yeah.
a large part of our year. And so we need to make sure we have each of those pieces. And to understand, Canadians don't really understand. They turn on a tap, they don't know where the water comes from. That's the municipal order of government. In most cases in our country, that's the municipal order of government. And holding municipal government account that the water system doesn't exist, but that it's resilient. And so I would need to define that word, because people say, oh, yeah, we want everything to be resilient, but they don't have a clue what that word means. It breaks into three words, three concepts. Number one, hardening. So you want to make sure that your water supply system, we'll use it as the example, is protected, that it's got the ability to function, and that it doesn't break readily. So hardening. Number two, speed of repair. If it does break, you need to be able to have the components and all of the pieces on hand, plus the trained people to immediately return it to service. So hardening, speed of repair, and the last piece is redundancy. So you have to have more than one of them. You need to have everything you need duplicated or triplicated depending on what it is. So when we talk about water supply, food supply, shelter, and energy, we need them to be resilient with hardening, speed of repair, and redundancy. And so that is a role of government, not to do it, but to ensure that the private sector is doing it. All right. So a very small regulatory framework to guarantee national self-sufficiency through a regulatory framework that's minimum, but that says if you're going to be responsible for this, you have to have two of them. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're going to be responsible for this, we need to grow our food in Canada and support a private sector industry that thrives making food for Canadians while sharing with it with an international market, but always knowing that if suddenly the borders get closed all around us through war or whatever, a fake pandemic, we have self-sufficiency, that we don't need truckers driving to Mexico to pick up enough food so we don't starve within a week in our own country.